Joining us right now live, the president of the Houston Dynamo, Chris Canetti. Chris, welcome to Red Card again, my friend.
Hello, Anthony. It's been a while. I remember talking to you a few years ago.
Absolutely. And I wanted to touch off with that, Chris. That's still deep in my heart, deep in your heart. And that's the unfortunate tragedy in Newtown. You had a special night, and it was the soccer night in Newtown. Let's talk about some of the things that took place when that happened and what's going on in 2016 to still help a lot of those families that are grieving.
Sure. There was the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December of 2012, and being from Connecticut myself and having children that age, it really hit home for me. So, I decided to use the soccer community to get into that town and see if we can help in any way possible. And I started with my own internal resources with the Dynamo, and then some of my old local resources back in Connecticut. And what started out as a small event spread like wildfire and went viral. And we ended up getting some of the biggest names in soccer in North America to come out: Mia Hamm, Alexi Lawless, Landon Donovan. And then we ended up getting at least one representative, and in some cases multiple representatives from every MLS team to come to Newtown about 3 weeks after the tragedy. And we had a great night there in January of 2013, and for a couple of hours, put some smiles on some people's faces that really needed it. And we went back and repeated it again. And then the town stopped. They really didn't want any more events like that. They were inundated, so they put a little bit of a moratorium on it. But to your question and point, we're looking to go back there in 2016. We've been invited to do something again, and we're going to try to do something this spring or summer. So the plans are in the earliest stage. And
that warms my heart, and congratulations to you and all the players that are taking time out of their busy schedule to do this. I want you to talk about MLS and the players in MLS. I've talked to many, many people all over North America. I've traveled to many of the MLS stadiums. And to me, MLS players, bar none, are some of the easiest, likable, approachable players in any sport that I've ever come across. They'll stop, take pictures, they'll talk to you, they'll sign autographs, they'll have conversations. I think this is something that needs to be told much more in circles all across North America. It's the great work that these players are doing.
We're very lucky, Anthony. The players that play in MLS are just naturally great guys, and I think they understand the role they have right now in growing the game and helping to build the sport in North America. And they're always more than happy to take a photo or sign an autograph or do a community appearance or whatever it takes. And in these days and ages where we're governed by collective bargaining agreements and things like that, we're really in a fortunate position to have great guys who are willing to do those things and connect with people, because it's a necessity right now as we try to grow the game and build the popularity of the sport. These guys are our number one asset.
Let's talk about the new owners that have come on board: Oscar De La Hoya, Gabriel Brenner, and a few others. I think this is great for Houston. I think this is great for MLS. I think this is important because they showed up, I believe, at your first or second training session. They care, and that goes a long way with the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, about 7 weeks ago, a deal closed where a new ownership group took over for AEG, and Gabriel Brenner is the majority partner. He had been a minority stakeholder in the team since 2008, along with Oscar De La Hoya. But Gabriel has stepped up to take the primary position here as the owner. He's brought in a local partner, a guy named Ben Gill, who's a business owner here, as well as a small owner in the Houston Astros. And he's brought in another partner in Jake Silverstein, who's a young guy, really fits the MLS demographic in his own right. And these guys are excited. They're really energized about being owners. They're engaged, as you said, evidenced by them being at training on Monday and doing media interviews and even some VIP events that evening. So I'm feeling very excited myself and happy about this new group, and I think it's going to mean a lot to the Dynamo going forward.
Chris, I've followed your team through the lean years, through the tough years, through the championship years. And one thing that has always stuck out to me, it's always a team-first attitude. You've had some unbelievable players come through there. Brian Ching, the Canadian Hall of Famer sensation, Dwayne DeRosario. We could go on and on. Never, ever did one player put himself first and ahead of the team. I've always noticed that about the type of players Houston brings in. It's a team first attitude. Talk about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that has been the mentality of the club over its first decade, and it has been a team first situation. I think a lot of that, in the beginning was full credit to Dominic Kinnear and the environment that he creates around his team. He really preaches that. And now we have a coach in Owen Coyle who believes the exact same thing. In fact, when the guys came back to the locker room this year and they walked in, there's a sign that he put on the door leading out to the training pitch from the dressing room that says, something to the effect of, if you're not about the team first, turn around. Don't take the training field. So it's definitely a team first mentality, and that's something that's helped us be successful and something we're going to continue to do.
Chris, let's talk about the state of Texas. I believe I've said this for the last 5 years. They are the soccer hotbed of North America. FC Dallas, your crew there, Houston Dynamo. We can look at San Antonio, Austin, on and on. I'm talking about now this sport in your state really making headway and starting to take a lot of people by surprise and overtaking maybe baseball, maybe NFL, collegiate sports. I really believe this sport is taking off in your state.
There's no doubt about it. It's a great sport for soccer for a lot of different reasons, and the participation level is huge. There's a lot of great youth clubs. You mentioned lots of different pro level teams with MLS and USL, and lots of good college soccer here too, from both the men's and women's side. And it is growing fast. And part of that is the demographic in the state. It's a very diverse international demographic, and of course, football is their game, and we have it. So we're starting our USL team in a place called Rio Grande Valley, which is down by the Mexican border, and it's just going like crazy down there. They're so excited to have professional soccer down there. They're selling season tickets like crazy. They're building what will be the best USL stadium in the United States, in my opinion. It's $20+ million stadium. So a lot of growth, and it's great to be a part of it and right in the middle as an MLS team.
Chris, a tough 2015 season. Looking forward now to 2016. You signed a couple Spaniards. You also brought in some important vets like Wenger. Also, Christian Medina coming over from Philly. You got the guys that have brought it each and every year for your club in Will Bruin, Ricardo Clark, Boniak Garcia. I believe with head coach Owen Coyle, now knowing what the league is all about, understanding a lot of things, I believe this could be a real good year for your squad. Talk about it.
Yeah, we believe it's going to be a bounce-back year for us, Anthony. Last year was a transition year, a bit of a lost year as we moved out from the Kinnear era, which was the only head coach in Dynamo history, and Coyle got his feet wet here with a new technical staff, but not quite the players that he wanted and the style that he wanted to play. And there was a very specific game plan going into this offseason in terms of what we needed and what we wanted to do. It all started with finding a number 10 in the middle of the park, an attacking midfielder. And we think we found a good one in Christian Maidana, who has led MLS in assists over the last 2 years. So he's going to be that playmaker pulling the strings in the middle. The other thing that Owen really wanted was what he calls pace and power on the wings. So with Giles Barnes going wide left and Wenger going wide right with other players involved like Boniak and Lima and Lovejoy, etc. We think that, and Miranda, we think we've got what we want in those areas. We've got 3 strikers that are capable of a lot of goals in Will Bruin, Cubo Torres, and a young unknown Colombian in Mauro Manotas. And we short up things too with the Spaniard signings. We like Rocha, who we think can break up plays, and be a good passer of the ball out of that position on the park next to Ricardo Clark. And we also like this guy Agus, who's a 30-year-old veteran left center back, left-footed. Our general manager describes him as a man. Playing next to Raul Rodriguez most likely. So with guys like Beasley and others, we definitely feel like this is a year where we're going to have a good season and bounce back and probably end up catching some people by surprise.
Chris, with all due respect to the Eastern Conference, I'll ask you this, and I'll ask Bobby Leonarduzzi of the Whitecaps, who joins me at 7 o'clock, the same question. I look at this Western Conference, and there's not one game you guys can take off. Neither can the Whitecaps or any club. I mean, it's deadly. You're looking at Seattle Sounders, the champs in Portland Timbers. You're looking at the LA Galaxy, who have beefed up. I mean, we can go. I mean, FC Dallas sitting on top with a young squad, and I'm sure that Real Salt Lake aren't happy how they played last year. I mean, it's crazy. Week in and week out, you guys have got to be prepared for a battle.
There's no pushovers in the West, and you're absolutely right. You look at the schedule, and you wonder sometimes where the heck are the wins going to come from. And the 4 teams that missed the playoffs in the West were us, Real Salt Lake, San Jose, and Colorado. And none of those games were, none of those teams were pushovers, and probably all of them have improved this offseason. You look at us last year. I mean, we beat the Galaxy, we beat Vancouver, we beat Toronto FC, we beat Montreal, we beat New York Red Bull. Columbus. We had victories over all these teams. So the margin is so thin in Major League Soccer, and it boils down to just a lot of little things. So we're hoping that we've made the changes we need to make from a talent level and all the other pieces to the game. From sports science, data analytics, even little things, environment around the club that are all going to pay off and hopefully mean more points.
Chris, just a couple other things, and then we'll let you go. We really appreciate your time. We know it's a Friday night. You probably want to get home to your family, and we respect that. But I can't let you go without talking about 2 things that I think that are important and that our listeners and viewers want to hear about. I think the NCAA has done a tremendous job. It's been the feeder system for many MLS clubs, and I think this is fantastic for the American player, for the Canadian player, and I think that the MLS and the NCAA have done an outstanding job. How important is it that the MLS clubs continue to support the NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3 schools?
It's very important. I mean, it's part of the landscape here, and we can't deny that, and we can't dismiss that. So, every year there's a number of good players that come through the college ranks, and there's a lot of players where college is going to make more sense than coming straight through an academy. So I think what's great now is what we've done in developing our academy systems in MLS and our USL teams is that kids have a choice now. So some kids at 18, it's going to make sense to sign. We have a kid on our team named Christian Lucatero who passed up on a college scholarship to come straight to play with us. We have another kid on our team named Bradley Bourgeois who was a homegrown player that went to Tulsa University and would have been a top 10 pick if he was eligible for the draft. So, different pathways for different players, and the college system is certainly part of it.
Lastly, let's talk about the future of MLS. We've heard a lot of players outspoken, whether it's Andrea Pirlo, others talking about how important it is to bring over more marquee players. And also, expansion. Is it time that MLS looks at St. Louis, Vegas, Sacramento, and possibly another team in Canada, whether it's Calgary or Winnipeg? Your thoughts?
Well, listen, I think 2 different subjects there. I think an expansion issue, I believe personally that we need to expand. I think that we need a bigger footprint across this vast land of North America. We need to be in more markets to be able to penetrate North America like we want to and like we need to. So I could see this thing continuing to expand. I think there's enough talent that we can bring in around the world to make sure that it's not diluted. And, in terms of bringing in marquee, big-name talent, that's just going to continue to happen over time and over the years as we grow commercially and as more money comes into the league. You're just going to see bigger names, bigger players, bigger contracts continue to flow in. as has been the case, Giovinco is a great example of that up your way. So it's an exciting time.
Chris, you're a class act. You're a gentleman for taking time out of your busy schedule. God bless you for what you're doing out there with the kids in that situation, with those families. We really appreciate that. And enjoy your weekend, and good luck in 2016 again, Chris.
Thank you very much. Pleasure coming on your show. I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
President of the Houston Dynamo, Chris Canetti. What a class act. What a gentleman. What a great guy to make time out of his busy schedule to join us. He is a guy that is one of the tops in MLS, a guy that cares about the league and his team. So it's great of him to make time to join us. Another